Jason. Leave me a message. I'll get back to you. Just, leave your name at the beep. All right? Beep.
Holy shit, I needed a lifeline. Where the fuck are you, Jason? Hurry up. Listen, here's the question if you get this, and then call the show back. The stove was first invented in 1872. Were the pipes in the stove originally made of? Here are the four. A, copper. B, steel. C, iron. D, copper-iron alloy. You fucking asshole.
Can't stop the train, baby. Woo!
Welcome back to the 37th round of VVV Gaming's The Losers Bracket. We have a ton of things to talk about, as normal. This past week, the WCG Grand Finals went down in LA, 10th year of the WCG, of course, and I am very proud to announce that our Guitar Hero representative that played at the Grand Finals, VVV Asai 28, actually is the world champion in Guitar Hero, taking home the gold medal for Team USA.
Yeah, the only medal for Team USA, is that correct?
That is correct as well. Asai, also known as Alec Castillo, amazing Guitar Hero player, took home the only medal for the entire Team USA. So pretty impressive feat considering also that he's only 14 years old, the youngest person to ever win the Guitar Hero World Championship, and first ever gold medal for the USA in Guitar Hero. So very impressive.
Yeah, I was really... I'm obviously really pleased. I want to give a big shout out to Asai, Alec, and his family. They are fantastic. I want to give a shout out to you, Jason, and Hell Ashes, Gary, and Lee, Brock. All of you did a great job in convincing me that Asai was as good as Smokey Prague. And I trust your guys' judgment. And I guess the proof is in the results, and I just want to give you all a big shout-out. Thank you so much. It's an honor in VV Gaming to have Asai and to have talented people like yourselves to make that evaluation.
Asai didn't struggle going into this. I mean, he went into his first two matches and quickly 2-0'd his opponents. He had only lost one type, and that was in the finals. So he went in pretty dominant, honestly.
Yeah, Alec actually, he destroyed the competition the entire event. He didn't lose a song, as Justin said, until the final match, where it was split 1-1, went into the tiebreaker. Pretty impressive showing in the tiebreaker as well. They played Spirit of Radio by Rush, and Monkey, who he was playing from the UK, former world champion as well. He was champion in 2008 when the finals were in Germany. Monkey ended up missing a note early on, and they used two different star power paths that actually gave the same amount of points, just used in different activations. The crowd was going crazy because they thought Monkey was going to win because he was ahead mid-song, even though he had missed early on. Alec ended up FC-ing the song and pulled back at the last second with his last star power activation for a really epic conclusion. Absolutely incredible. I mean, right afterwards, to give you a great story about this entire experience, Alec's mother, Diane, called me on the phone, and it sounded like she was almost near tears of joy, saying, "Oh my God, he won, he won, he won." And I just had chills all up and down my spine. It was just such an amazing moment. I can't say enough good things about their family. Once again, congratulations to the world champion, Alec Castillo, VVV Asai 28.
All right. So now that that's out of the way, I'm going to sling a little shit the World Cyber Games way because I got a few complaints. One, that smooth move of cutting the Counter-Strike prize pool the day of the opening of the event. I don't know if I dig that too much. I had sent email to Paul Brewer, who, in his defense, he probably is busy. But I said, hey, can I care to get a comment as to why you cut the prize pool in half? Not that this is the first time this has happened either, right? That's the first thing. And for those who aren't completely familiar with what I'm talking about, the original Counter-Strike tournament pool was going to be $75,500. And that was cut down to $40,000, which the winning team then receives $25,000, which is still $5,000 a player, which to me isn't terrible, but to the Counter-Strike, the old guard, as I like to call them, they're watching their star fade because that's 10,000 less than it was going to be or what it was last year. So even though, like I said, I'm not a 1.6 fan, World Cyber Games, Paul Brewer, if you're listening, I want to know what happened. The second thing that is a little bit problematic, I thought, and I'll leave this up to you guys, is actually two things in this thing. It's consistency in the stream, getting their technological issues worked out, because I'll tell you what, the U.S. Nationals and this were night and day when it came to just technical competence. Secondly, when I look at the USA team roster, look, could you please be consistent? I don't know why, but you've got like all of the Team EG is their players' names are evil geniuses, and I've got to look down to get their actual name. If you're going to do that for everybody. Like if Asai wins, then make it VVV Asai, and do that. You've got Counter Logic there for League of Legends. Do that for everyone. Be consistent. Those are my complaints: the stream and consistency. But I'll let you guys. And the fact that I don't think the day of an event is the time that one cuts prize pools, but that's just me.
Yeah. Technical difficulty seemed to run pretty rampant at the grand finals this year from what I've heard. One of our own as well, VVVJC, he was one of the refs for League of Legends this year, and he had complained to me quite a few times while he was at the event that there were so many technical difficulties that it was hard for him to even do his job. He said he ended up sitting around for about 6 hours at one point, waiting for Riot to do something about the technical issues they were having with League of Legends. So, yet again, it seems very problematic. There were so many issues at what is supposed to be the Olympics of video games, the largest event normally per year. Color me disappointed by that, but I'm still feeling pretty good at least about the Asai thing, but otherwise, I'm a little bit on the disappointed side for this year.
Yeah, just to throw one thing out there as you say that, speaking of League of Legends, because of what we said earlier, I want to be clear on something. I am well aware that it was an American team, Counter Logic, that won the League of Legends, but it was a promotional title, so it doesn't count toward the country's total number of medals because it wasn't actually an official WCG title, just so that nobody comes back to the show and goes, Asai wasn't the only Americans to win a medal. I am well aware that Counter Logic won the League of Legends, but I want everyone to be aware that as far as medal count goes, America has one medal, and that one medal comes from VVV Asai for Guitar Hero 5. Although another thing to put out there, this result tells us a lot of what we have left to do when it comes to gaming on the world stage. The one thing VV Gaming has always done is we've always tried to focus on our strengths, and I think we've done that by, one, identifying new talent and doing our best to support that talent so it can compete on the main stage. I remember I had people from the UK who kept telling me, he's had an easy road, but once he faces Monkey, he's going to lose. And unfortunately, you were wrong. So to those of you who were messaging me, have a little bit of faith. And I mean this, if there's a player on a competition with 3Vs, don't be so quick to dismiss someone just because you haven't heard of them. That is part of the problem, assuming that only the people you know are good.
Speaking of lessons learned, if WCG and MLG end up working together in the long run, within the near future, something that WCG can actually pick up from MLG is how to run a stream. MLG doesn't know how to run it perfectly. I mean, we understand that, they understand that. But however, they get it done. They never really have a technical difficulty to the fact that matches can't be broadcasted. They always work that out. The stream might not be perfect, but it's consistent.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that would be one of the areas to explore, or at least WCG should invest in a consistent partner. I understand that they have to often work with many different partners depending on the geography. But if they're going to be doing something here in the USA, I definitely think that they should partner and have a consistent team that they work with. Like I said, I thought DJ Wheat's stream was good, and there did not appear to be, and we didn't have somebody work there, so there did not appear to be any technical difficulties, and everything that I've heard and everything I saw during that was really, really solid. So it's definitely possible. But speaking of geographies, they're going back to China for 2011 for the World Finals. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just read they're going to be going to Shanghai, it seems, which I got to admit, that sounds like a really smart move because the Players, first of all, from what I've heard, didn't seem the most thrilled to be on American soil. It makes sense compared to how big esports is in a lot of the rest of the world. Turnout was fairly low compared to what we saw last year in Chengdu. So going to Shanghai next year seems like a logical move to kind of, I guess you could say, recover from what happened this year with all the issues.
Yeah, I think that move also signals what games we're going to see. We know if they go to China, three things are probably going to be absolutely true. One, StarCraft 2, no-brainer, not surprised to anybody. Two, Warcraft 3 will still be there. It's still huge in China. I don't see it stopping. FIFA is not going to go anywhere. Those three things are true. Fourth thing that might surprise us is that we may see a promotional title like, I don't know, Crossfire, like AVA, like one of those free-to-play games here that comes from one of the Asian developers. So that much we know. What will happen after that, I'm not quite sure. I would doubt then that we will see, at least at the world stage, and as much as I would love to see it, I'm skeptical whether or not we're actually going to see a Halo Reach on the world stage. Hopefully, what the WCG does is what they did a couple years ago, like with Gears of War, at least have it at the U.S. Nationals. If they let this go, I think that would be, to be honest, would be horrible. I think right now Reach is one of the best console games that we have ever had. Everyone's playing it, and it is probably one of the best competitive titles. And that is what I hope they do. Unless anybody here has anything that they think might be better, that's what I'd like to see.
Well, I definitely would like to see Halo Reach on there, mainly because they had worked Halo into their event before. Back in 2008, when they went to Cologne, Germany, they had Halo 3 there, and they sent U.S. teams over, and it was actually quite successful. I think they should be able to do that again. Granted, the MLG-Bungie relationship, I think they should just at least have it just once to see how it works out. And I think it would go really well. I think there would be more U.S. teams that'd be able to go. And I think U.S. might win actually a couple more medals. It might balance out the ranks a little bit in the medal count, considering how dominant Korea is.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why Halo Reach wouldn't be on there, at least in North America. Overseas, I can see where there might be a little bit of an issue since, in Eastern culture, Western games aren't as widely accepted. And, what other shooting game could there possibly be that could be on there? I mean, Gears of War 3 got delayed, till the fall of next year, so we're not going to see that. And speaking of which, that means we're not going to see it on the MLG circuit either. I'm actually pretty excited about that at first because that means they're going to be able to iron out all the bugs, and we can get all the people to focus on Halo Reach right now and really build up that community instead of splitting people between Halo Reach and Gears. Do you guys agree with me?
Yeah, let's make that clear. Everyone should already know that Gears of War 3 has been delayed until the fall of next year, so we will not see an April release as previously stated. Microsoft claims this is for marketing reasons. I think a lot of competitive players are keeping their fingers crossed and hoping that this delayed release gives more time for Major League Gaming and Epic to possibly tweak some things so that the competitive community gets a better game.
There's two reasons why this could possibly get delayed. One, you have Bulletstorm coming out in early 2011. So if they wanted to push that back to the holiday season, therefore it would be split, and therefore they could bring in a ton of money off the two titles, then that would make a little sense for marketing. But other than that, it makes sense getting delayed at least 5 months for the competitive gaming scene, mainly because, Sundance and the community has been tweeting to Cliffy B so much recently and showing him so many papers on, what could be improved, that maybe it was just the best timing to delay it. Therefore, they can work everything out, and therefore by the 2012 season for MLG, they could have a competitive Gears of War title that would be problem-free.
I agree, and maybe, who knows, maybe they'll have some kind of closed beta for, MLG testing to play with it and then come back with them with ideas of how to improve the game to make it as competitive as possible.
I really hope so. I really do. And speaking of beta testing, I don't know if you guys are aware, but Medal of Honor has just had its open beta on the PC, which I think ends today, October 7th. If you have not, you want to get a glimpse at what Medal of Honor multiplayer looks like, on the PC at least, which will give you a good idea. Now is the time to do that before the open beta ends.
Yeah, I mean, from the tweets I've been seeing and reading from players who have the beta on the PC, they really enjoy the game, and it's worth trying it. So if you have that opportunity, make sure you do it.
Well, I'm very excited to actually try it regarding gameplay. However, what draws me back is the fact that EA decided to give in to the U.S. military and take out the word Taliban, and you can't play as the Taliban players or characters anymore in the game. It kind of frustrates me because of the whole free speech thing. That's what a lot of the military was talking about in EA. Basically, the military decided to not sell the game on their bases throughout the country regarding the Taliban characters, mainly because of the families that have family overseas right now fighting Taliban and stuff. It just caused some problems. EA supported it the whole way, and they're like, you know what, this is free speech, and we should be able to have this with no problem. And then a couple hours later, they gave in and said, okay, you know what, we'll take it out, and therefore we can try to get it back on your bases, and people will actually buy it. Well, earlier today, military came out and said, you know what, we're not going to sell it still. So thanks anyway, but it's just not for us. And at this point, if I was EA, honestly, I think I'd put it back in and put the word Taliban back in. Mainly because you have these other war games out right now, Call of Duty, prior Medal of Honors, and, you had the word Nazi in there. You had, Vietnamese, all these different wars that were covered from different games using all these terms. And, people are complaining about one word in a new, up-to-date game regarding the current war. I think that's a little dumb, and I think it should be put back in there, honestly.
Well, no, I agree with you, but I think what the military and people are trying to go for is they're taking the too soon approach, so to speak, where, it's too close to home right now. Like, obviously Nazis were back in the, 1940s, Vietnamese, 1960s to 70s, stuff like that. And it's too personal right now. And, I mean, it's just a video game is the way I look at it, but other people look at anything and try and change it to what they think is politically correct.
No, I think the right answer to me was EA should have stuck to their guns. The military should ban it from the bases. I mean, there are a lot of people who may have lost loved ones and may be offended by that. I can respect that. I spent 12 years serving this country, and I can see where I think a lot of people who don't know much about the military, you just think of the soldiers. But when you're in the military, I know it wasn't just the people I served with. It was their families that were part of the team. So if I know that somebody that I've served with is unfortunately given the ultimate sacrifice, his family still needs to be cared and looked after. And I can imagine that watching her, you have to think of a wife or a family member watching their teenage son who just lost his father playing the Taliban. That's a difficult emotional place to be, and I can see that. I think both sides should have stuck to their guns. I think that the military is doing the right thing by not having it on their bases. I think they have to make that nod to the families. I wish families weren't that sensitive about art, but where we are today, we're still struggling to get video games in the mainstream. So I think that, you're both right. EA should put it back in the game. I do not believe editing it out or in some ways trying to shield it is a positive thing. There's a lot of things at the end of the day that went into the development of Medal of Honor, for those who've been watching the videos. And I think nerfing it, kind of blunting it by taking the Taliban out, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there, Jerry. I mean, as you said, I never personally was in the military, but, I did ROTC in high school, so I had a lot of friends that went into the military. And I actually have had a lot of friends that have been killed overseas. And it sucks. It really does suck. But at the same time, it's art, and I'm one of those people that feels that video games are art, and you don't want to censor your own art. That's bad. That's akin to like book burning. You don't want to have that happen. So I do think that EA should have stuck to their guns, kept it in there. Is it bad that it's banned from military bases? No, probably not. It wouldn't mesh well with people's families that have people that are in the military. It's just not a good mix. But this isn't the first game that we've had suggestive things like this. I mean, even look at Counter-Strike with terrorists. It's been around for quite a while. It's not the first time. So I think that everyone, if they would have just stuck to their guns, it would have been a much better scenario.
Yeah, I agree. But I think one thing to throw in there is that remember that Counter-Strike, unfortunately, is so old. It's literally pre-9/11. And I think a post-9/11 world, I think, just for the record, I hate that kind of cliche, but in this particular case, I think it's really relevant. knowing sailors and soldiers and airmen, they're all going to be playing this game anyway. They're just going to go off base to buy it. So, I mean, this is not hurting EA. It's not hurting anyone, to be honest. And I think at the end of the day, the military had nothing to gain by letting it back on base. The U.S. military is known for strict policies. Axe it, you're done. I just think that EA could easily put it back in the game and put out a statement that we're not going to edit history, and it would have been over too. It's like not having Nazis in a World War II game. I mean, the SS were an integral part of the fighting machine, and I just don't agree with that.
My dad, he spent a year in Iraq, and he's going to be going to Afghanistan next year. He got his orders. And honestly, the games he plays, he has an Xbox, he has a PlayStation, the games he plays would be all the military shooters, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Counter-Strike, so on. This honestly, for the most part, doesn't affect a lot of the soldiers. Overseas, guarantee in Iraq, the troops that are left over there and the ones in Afghanistan, they're going to be playing this game. That's how it goes. They just play shooters over there. I think the military is right by keeping it off regarding the families, but also a lot of the troops don't really care to the extent that the military is pushing it to.
While we're on the subject of military, I just want to give a shout out to anyone who's listening who has a family member or a friend in the military, or if you yourself are in the military, I just want to give a shout out and say we're proud of what you're doing for us and we respect everything you do.
I'm very proud to introduce our next guest. He is a recent addition to VVV Gaming. I'd like to introduce one of our StarCraft players. He is known as CheAse, VVV CheAse, Barry Galitsky. Barry, welcome to the Losers Bracket.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I am honored to be here, and also as a part of VVV Gaming.
So you've come from a very interesting background. So why don't you tell everyone your gaming background and tell them a little bit about you?
Well, as for my gaming background, I played a bit of iCup, nothing really too competitive. I really started getting into it when I was watching like the OSL and MSL. And for those of you who don't know, that's pretty much like pro StarCraft in Korea. As soon as I heard StarCraft 2 was going to come out, I decided that I wanted to actually like play the game a lot and get good at the game. So as soon as beta came out, I got my hands on a beta key and I started practicing and joining as many tournaments as I could. And eventually I got noticed, and I ended up joining Quantum Gaming, which was the team that VVV Gaming picked up. As for my personal life, I'm a student at BCIT. It's my third year for my bachelor's degree. I'm a pretty normal guy when it comes down to it.
What is your major there?
I major in computer science, so I fit right into the gaming community. And I'm actually going in for a specialty of game design.
So as far as computer science, Barry, so video games, is that the direction you want to go?
I'm not quite sure. It's one of the specialties I'm taking. I'm also taking networking. I'm going to have to see the next couple of years. It depends what kind of projects I work on in the future, see what I really get a passion for, and I'll probably just go into one of those two directions.
Speaking of passion for, it seems like you have a passion for taking the trash out, so to say. I don't know, that might be a little bit mean, but if you're listening to this show right now and you haven't heard the story yet, there's a great encounter that happened the other day between Barry and two of his classmates, and a little grudge match happened in StarCraft 2. Barry, can you give us a little bit of background on this encounter that you just had?
Yeah, I most certainly can. I can't believe how fast it all escalated, first of all. Basically, there's a bunch of people in my class, and two of them in particular, they were talking about StarCraft, so I'm a pretty social guy. I was talking to them, like, about StarCraft, their rank, like that kind of stuff, and they said they're really good at like team games and team matches. So I tell them, hey, well, I play like a lot of 1v1, and then they arrogantly told me that like, hey, like if you want to get better at StarCraft, you got to stop playing 1v1, you got to start playing team matches. I mean, I could have just been like, hey man, you're bad, like you don't know what you're talking about, but instead I decided to take the high road, which may not exactly be that high of a road, but I took out my anger, wrote a blog on Team Liquid about my classmates. So what happened after that is I was looking across and I saw that my classmates were actually looking on the forums of Team Liquid. So I got a little bit worried. I was like, oh, they might actually see my blog and they might be like, oh, that's the guy in our class that we just trash talked. So I typed in the thread like, oh no, they might see my thread. And then one of the moderators, Chill, saw it and he made it a featured thread on the front page of Team Liquid in hope that they would actually see it. So eventually one of my classmates forwarded them to the thread and told them about it, and then they saw it, they read it, and then they challenged me to a grudge match for $1,000, which I don't have the money for. we ended up agreeing that it'd be $100 later. But anyways, we decided to have this 2-versus-1 grudge match. I was talking to them, trying to convince them to get it streamed because a lot of people on Team Liquid wanted to watch it. And then, then the match happened.
So in this match that you just had, you and your friend, well, were these friends of yours?
No, they're not friends of mine at all. They're just like random classmates.
Got it. So just random classmates. And you set the stage for a $100 bet in a match where you're going to play solo against 2 other players. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they actually wanted to bet for more. I was a little bit skeptical because, like, even lower level players, it's not that hard to lose 2-versus-1.
So what happened? I mean, for those who haven't watched the video, who may not be familiar with the result, tell everybody how it went down.
Well, we decided it would be a best of 5, and after the first game, I actually lost quite badly to them, and I was getting really nervous because I knew a lot of people would be watching. I mean, if I lost, I'd be horribly flamed, and people would be making fun of me because I just made this huge challenge, and I knew people would be watching. And then also after the first game that I lost, my friend messaged me in the middle of the game, and he's like, there's like over 2,000 people watching, so I was even more nervous. But I decided to sit back and calm myself down, and I kind of looked at what was happening, and I realized that one of the players was a lot better than the other player. So I decided that I needed to take him out early in the game. So that was my game plan for the remaining games. I ended up taking the series 3-1.
That is just awesome. So did they pay up?
They actually paid up. That's something I was kind of skeptical about too. I thought the next day at school might be kind of weird. I walked in the door. They were sitting there early. Our eyes met face to face. I walked toward. They're actually nice about it too. That's the thing that really kind of threw me for a whirl. They're kind of being friendly. But yeah, they paid me. 520s is in the pouch of my wallet right now. Pretty happy about that.
Now, with the situation being over and them paying up already, what's the relationship between you guys now? I mean, it's got to be weird going into class and seeing them all the time now.
Well, I think I have like one class with them because it's not like high school where they're your classmates 8 to 5 every day. I only see them, I think, one day a week. When I do see them, they have just sat across the class from me and not looked at me or talked to me, which is kind of rewarding, I guess, in a way.
So you kind of mentioned earlier that this blew up. All these views, what has been some of the fan reactions after the 1v2 match?
Actually, I couldn't believe how many messages I got. After the match initially ended, I got a whole bunch of messages on Team Liquid. On Battle.net, I had more messages that I could even see. I had to keep closing windows. Lots of people have just been congratulating me in random ladder matches. And as for how it blew up, I couldn't believe how much it blew up. I thought there'd be like a couple hundred people watching tops, but it turned out that there was like at least more than 4,000 across the streams. Pretty neat, I guess.
Now, one of my favorite things about this match was the trash talk that was going on during it. And for those that have not watched the match, do you think that you could possibly share a couple of the things that were thrown back and forth between your opponents and yourself?
I don't think I personally as much trash talked of them, but I know they were doing a lot more of it to me. Like, for example, Forpool made a drop in my mineral line, and then after that he's like, how's your eco, bro? And I know that has been kind of taken as a phrase and used by lots of people around. Like, I've seen a picture of Obama that says, how's your eco, bro, on it, and friends of mine have said that they've seen it in games and heard of it too, so that's one of the lines. And then I think another one was like, say goodnight when Forpool came in my base with Mutalisks, even though it didn't really do any damage. And a lot of interesting catchphrases that are kind of unique that people don't actually say that much.
Affecting StarCraft culture, huh? Did you ever expect that this would end up being this big?
Oh, I definitely didn't. I still like really surprised with how many people watch and how supportive the community is. Like, a lot of people were like cheering me on, and that was another thing that really helped motivate me after my my bad loss in Game 1 to win. But yeah, I definitely didn't expect it. I almost feel bad because of how much exposure I've gotten. It almost feels like I didn't deserve it, but at the same time, I'm happy that so many people got to enjoy the match as much as they did.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I've got to say, it's got to probably push you to increase your skill even further. Any sort of LAN events, any other competitions coming up in your future that we should be aware of?
There's actually a LAN event on the weekend that I'm going to be going to. But instead of playing, I think I'm going to be casting with my friend Goatrope. If you don't know who he is a a popular featured streamer on Team Liquid. He has a kind of like a talk show stream, and sometimes they cast games. He's a friend of mine. I met him in real life before. But yeah, I should be casting that tournament. I think that Marth, he's also on VVV Gaming. I don't think he's on the front roster, but he's one of the other players. I think he'll be there too. He's performed pretty well in the previous Vancouver lands, and I will be trying my hardest not to be biased when I cast his games.
Now, Barry, I know you're going to be shoutcasting this weekend for the event in Vancouver. Meanwhile, another member of our StarCraft 2 team, VV Murder, is going to be going to the Intel Extreme Masters in New York this weekend, which is at the New York Comic-Con. Any predictions how he's going to do? Any rundown on what you think is going to happen?
Well, I think Murder is a very underrated player when it comes to the followers of StarCraft 2. I mean, there are a lot of really big names in his division, but on ladder, I know Murder's put up the results. He's beaten more of them than he's lost. So I'm pretty confident that at least Murder will make it past the first stage. I'm not sure how well he'll do after that, but I do have a lot of confidence in him. He's a really talented guy. He's definitely the star player of the VVV StarCraft lineup.
So, CheAse, I want to ask you how your time's been here in VVV Gaming so far.
It's actually been amazing. Like, I don't want to be like trying to play this up, but it's actually been really awesome. I'll even be in vents, talking to my teammates, and they'll all go offline. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of random VVV guys will come in and just like have some friendly chats, offer me to play some games, just questions about my life. It's a really welcoming community. It's something that I really am happy to be part of.
Well, I want to say that we're happy to have you. It's very rare to meet gamers who have the same mentality that we do, that aren't elitist. And when Roar, VVV Roar now, approached me and talked to me about what you guys were about and what you were doing, it seemed like a perfect fit. So we're really glad to have you.
Well, we are definitely very glad to be here.
I'm looking forward to actually getting to play some StarCraft with you guys. I haven't played in a while. You're not gonna harp on me for being too bad, are you?
Of course not. Don't worry about it. We'll train you up.
Barry, before we let you go, I want to make sure that we cover, I guess, what I would call some of the more interesting things about you, because I don't think a lot of people know that you are, I don't know what the right word is. It's like you're a survivor. Like nothing seems to get you down. I think of a lot of people who I know, and I don't know if they necessarily have the optimistic attitude that you do and the great sense of humor. So if you don't mind sharing, can you tell a little bit about, some of the things that people may not know about Barry?
Well, for one thing, I'm not exactly proud of it, but I actually live in a trailer because I can't afford for rent when I go to school or for an apartment. So right now I'm living on a trailer. It's actually a bus that's renovated as an RV inside, which is kind of unfortunate. Like, so when you go meet a girl, it'll be like, hey, you want to come back to my trailer? And it doesn't really sound very well when you say it. And I haven't really thought of a line that would actually work with that. Along with the trailer, I have this horrible truck that not only breaks down all the time, has a tow bar on the front because it breaks down all the time, and it leaks fumes into the cab, so I have to drive with the windows down. And also the door also sometimes opens when I'm turning.
You could always call your bus the Shaggin' Wagon.
The Shaggin' Wagon. Barry, how about you try that?
I've probably heard that a lot more times than I should. But,
really? Oh,
yeah.
So Justin, you get no points for...
All right, it'll probably work, that's why.
I'll give it a shot and I'll get back to you.
All right, that's definitely... We need, like, chronicles from the Shaggin' Wagon. That should be your blog, and that should be a great, time in the life. Because, Barry, you're also fairly active, right? I understand you play a lot of sports. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I play street hockey every week with my old friends from high school at the tennis courts. I also play tennis. Recently, I've been trying to go for 5-kilometer runs a day just to try to keep myself more in shape. And also, in addition to being in shape, I feel like I actually perform better playing video games. I feel like in order to be in shape mentally, you have to be in shape physically.
That whole mind-body connection thing, I hear, is not a rumor, that everyone performs better with exercise.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that for me in my past experiences.
So, would it be too much to ask that at some point in the future we have you back for, I'm serious about this, Chronicles of the Shaggin' Wagon, or AKA the CheAse Bus. We definitely need to do something with that.
Next time on the Shaggin' Wagon, 2 girls, 1 backseat, 1 CheAse.
Oh.
What's the outcome? Cheese sprays everywhere!
Oh, God.
I do love
You know
that.
what the worst part about that is that we already know he wins 2v1s.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
That's what's going.
This is going too far.
I'm telling you, we need a blog. We need, we need a regular feature. Something for, I don't know, do we go with Cheese Bus or Shaggin' Wagon?
So, do you like your cheese with 2 crackers?
This is terrible. You're just not going to stop, are you?
The 2 crackers, was that a thing about the trailer? Because that's horrible.
No, that was the boat. No, not trailer. No.
Chronicles of the Cheesy Shaggin' Wagon, a new independent hit film. Yeah, I can see it now. I think that's what people really want to know about.
Well, Cheese, we definitely want to thank you for stopping by, talking with us here on the Losers Bracket. Hopefully we'll get to see you back here in the future, and best of luck also to VV Murder this weekend at the IEM in New York.
All right, everybody, we want to follow up last week's interview with Sundance with a little bit of analysis. So I just want to be clear with everyone that we're not going to spend a lot of time on the subject, but I definitely want to talk a little bit about some of the things we found interesting that Sundance mentioned last week.
What definitely stuck out in my eyes was when he was discussing the brackets and why they chose to do the format they did, and also to open up ideas of like how we could possibly make it better for the tournament, as well as, you know, the so-called local people who just come in to experience the event.
Yeah, it sounded to me like he was very open to ways to reach out to include more games. And I mean, he's open to the idea of spending money on tournaments, which I think is very, very positive. I mean, that's the kind of action to me that's commitment. If he were willing to, you know, give money to an Apex as an example, or some Brawl event, and, you know, he's raising a good question. You know, should Brawl be at every Major League Gaming Pro Circuit event, or should they instead support the community-based system that's already in place? And I mean, this is a question that only the Brawl community can answer, but I mean, I think those are the right questions to ask.
Exactly, and something that he suggested, but he also wanted ideas, was Brawl, whether they wanted it to have smaller events over, you know, the period of each event, or one huge one at the end of the season. What he suggested was perfect, and the Brawl community really needs to sit down and think about what he suggested, as well as trying to maybe improve on that idea, because honestly, one huge event for Brawl where you don't have to travel as much and you can still go to all the locals you want, just have that one huge prize pool at the end of the season. That's really all Brawl needs, to be honest.
Well, I definitely enjoyed how he cleared up about everything regarding coaching, that he likes the idea of where coaching is going and what they actually plan to do in the future regarding coaching. Along with that, I also enjoyed how they cleared up all the air regarding the stuff that they had, like Gears of War, what they're doing with Smash, you know, the ideas with Capcom and Street Fighter and all that good stuff. So I thought clearing all that up and showing the progression that they're trying to make with these new games, with coaching and the pro players, I think it definitely answered a huge amount of questions that were being asked all over the place.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that there. I mean, that might be the single biggest part of this interview, is that so much of the air was cleared. Things like the Razer controller issue. A lot of that misinformation, or I guess you could just say assumption that had been out there, has been cleared. That's huge. That's huge. Got to thank Sundance yet again for doing that for the community, getting all the information out into the open and being transparent with us. That's going to really help to really take it to the next level for competitive gaming.
And, you know, after being able to sit down and hear his point of view on the Razer controllers, it actually makes sense of why MLG is actually banning the controllers. You don't want to put them on a circuit that you've never even been able to test yourself. You don't know if it's going to work properly. So I think what they're doing with that situation is actually the best idea for right now until they actually get one.
Needless to say, I think that the future holds a lot of really great opportunities and possibilities as well. I, for one, am excited. I really like the direction that MLG is going, and having learned a little bit about the man behind the operation, I feel a lot more comfortable now. It's always really strange when there's someone faceless, someone voiceless that you can't really talk to. And learning more about that person, putting a voice to the person that's making these decisions, it really makes the whole thing human. And it feels more real, and it feels more like this is something that's going to work out positively for everyone in the end.
It's also a good feeling to know that he's willing to listen to us, the randoms who play the games and spectate the games and really just are really passionate about video games to help improve MLG and the growth of competitive gaming. I'm going to use his word because I kind of do agree with that. Esports is a little what really is esports, but that's another topic, another day. Competitive gaming is really still young, and it's nice and refreshing to know that he's willing to listen to us, our ideas, and try them and see what's best for competitive gaming, not just what he wants to do, and that's that.
Well, it definitely shows his dedication, because being able to sit down and hear what he had to say about, the whole CEO position that he took, it definitely shows he wants to take control of the company and really move this in the right direction, and showing that, seeing that he's working with VVV and all the other organizations, along with WCG, trying to work with them, and him and Paul Brewer trying to get together. It really shows that he's trying to move this into the right direction and take this to another level.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of really smart business in this approach. We have to accept the fact now that he basically had to wrestle the company back into his control. I imagine that sometimes watching what you build take the wrong direction can be a spark of energy, and I think that's what happened there. And I think he's really, energetically looking to right the wrongs. I don't want to trump other esports news this week. There's a lot going on in esports, but I read an article on Fnatic that said something about StarCraft 2 might be America's opportunity to come to the table to re-energize our competitive gaming. And I'm going to be honest, that was probably the most offensive article I have ever read. I'm just going to be dead honest with you. If anything, I'm fine calling out what we could do better. But this idea that StarCraft 2 to revive North America, let me tell you something. And I'm going to be honest with all you guys. I don't see Counter-Strike 1.6 as the future of competitive gaming, right? And, if anything, whoever that writer was for this article, Cameron Carson, you know what? Fuck you, Cameron. Fuck you and your little fucking condescending, this might be what helps North America. Because, you know what? I reject that idea. Where the fuck are you playing Halo? I don't see Power Gaming necessarily being a top 8 team anytime soon, and that's your best? So you don't see us going there, will Power Gaming possibly save European Halo? That's the exact kind of arrogance that fucking pisses me off. I reject that whole fucking bullshit about, in Europe, but you know what? We have 300 million people in this country, and a lot of them game, possibly all of them. The last thing we need is some kid on a Fnatic website to make some broad blanket statement about North American competitive gaming. Because to be honest with you, we have been doing it for 3 years. When I wrote that article about sponsorships, the Loaded people came over there saying, oh, well, you're nothing. Look at what Loaded's done. Yeah, look at what you've done. You got acquired by EG. That's what you did. I don't see those Counter-Strike players talking smack now as they wander free. See, the one big difference is that those people, what I call the old guard, you were brought up in a time when you could be an arrogant prick. That time is over. People in America, because of our culture, need to work together. We need to reach out. It's why I reach out to people at Game Nation. It's why I reach out to Arctic and the crew at ZYN. I know some of those people don't like me. Some of them may not like VV Gaming. But it's not about me. It's not about VVV. If Arctic and Skyless and the ZYN crew want to launch a website, we'll promote it. If it gives gamers something that they can enjoy, that they can use, that they'll get utility out of, we'll support it. But the last thing I need is some pompous prick on a British website to write that some way StarCraft 2 may revitalize North American esports. No, I reject that. I've been watching esports, as you call it, in North America for 3 years. Now, it may not have been Quake Live. It may have not been Counter-Strike 1.6, but it was esports. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You don't get to decide what is esports. You don't get to define it. And if anything, the one thing that you have solidified in my heart is I will bust my ass for Major League Gaming, because if we can take all of that American ingenuity, the very thing that makes this nation great, and wind it up and move forward, you know what? In America, we may have our differences, but it takes one little prick overseas to either fly a fucking plane in a building or write some ignorant little article. And let me pause right now, because what's going to happen is all the little Europeans are going to cry, he compared the person who wrote that article to 9/11. What a pompous prick. Fuck you, because I don't give a shit. You don't pay my bills. VVV Gaming left the competitive scene in Europe, and we grew. So that growth is because we focused on a market that needed developing and needed to bring gamers to it, not sit back on our fat ass and write stupid articles that say things like, oh, well, maybe this will make you what? Play some decade-old game? Maybe I should go pick up the Counter-Strike Source beta and debate about the ammunition system in it. Well, no one's going to acquire VVV Gaming. You know, a lot of people say things about capitalizing on sponsors. Well, you know what? I don't need to. So if you get more money from your sponsors, fantastic. But you know who delivers more to their sponsors for less money? We do. And I'll challenge that any place, anytime, any day. But the one thing I did take away from Sundance, and the way I believe he is setting the stage, is he's reaching out and asking those of us who are passionate about gaming to give him a chance, to work with him, to give him our input when he asks, and to help him when he asks. And that's something I'll be proud to be involved in.
We'd like to thank you once again for listening to this week's edition of the Losers Bracket. Big thanks to Barry as well, VV CheAse, for stopping by and sharing his experiences with us. Huge thanks to VV sponsors, SteelSeries, Control Freak, MusicSkins.com, GamerLogos.net, and Custom Inc. As well, big thanks to the VV community for your constant feedback and support. Be sure to stop by our podcast homepage, vvgaming.podbean.com. Also, subscribe to VV Gaming on iTunes so you can follow both of our shows, Directional Influence and The Losers Bracket. Email us if you'd like. Any questions, suggestions for future topics? The email address, thelosersbracket@vv-gaming.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. There, we're simply known as Losers Bracket.
All right, everybody, we're out of here. Take care.
Thanks for listening and have a great week.